motion that we make Brett Christensen or appoint Brett Christensen as mayor pro tem today.
Second.
We need a roll call or all in favor?
A roll call because Brian should.
Okay, roll call vote. Starting with Councilwoman Hyatt.
Yes.
Councilwoman Moss.
Yes.
Councilman Rowley.
Yes.
Councilman Hyatt. Not Hyatt, sorry, Hewlett. They put him in here in alphabetical order. I don't see Brian. And Councilman Christensen, yes. All right, welcome to Payson City Council meeting for April 17th, 2024. The time is 6:02. And we will start with the prayer by Councilman Rowland.
Our dear, kind, loving Father in heaven. Father, we are indeed grateful for this chance to gather together as city officials and concerned citizens. Father, we're so grateful for this beautiful area in which we live. Thankful for the city of Payson. We pray that thy spirit may attend us during this meeting. Help us to make wise decisions to protect and to hear out one another. Please bless our city to thrive. Help us to be service-oriented and Christ-like in all that we do. Father, we love you. We love this country. We pray that we may do our part to protect these precious freedoms thou hast endowed us with, and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we'll now have the pledge led by Samuel Sorensen.
Please stand. Please repeat the Pledge of Allegiance with me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Go ahead and have a approval of the consent agenda, including the approval of the April 3rd, 2024 City Council meetings, a proclamation for Kevin Bacon Day, proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week, the resolution for UAMP's firm power supply project prepay agreement, and a resolution for an addendum agreement with South Haven Farms, a resolution for real estate purchase contract with Troy Littlewell, and the resolution appointment of our city engineer, Jonathan Knight. Motion for that.
I will motion that we approve the consent agenda with all those things listed.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
And our first and second, a required roll call vote on this. So, Councilwoman Hyatt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Moss,
Yes.
Councilman Rowley,
Yes.
Councilman, did we find Hewlett?
Hewlett.
And Councilman Christensen, yes, he did. Did you get that, Kim? Okay, we'll move on to the Chamber of Business Service Award. Diane Jensen.
This is always so fun to do. And as a chamber, we love to honor businesses and people in the community. And this month, we are awarding our first quarter business of the quarter, and it's going to Menchie's in Payson. And so if you want to come up, I'm going to read this about you while you're coming up. Since their opening, Wendy and Craig, the owners of Menchie's, have enriched our local community. Their commitment to providing an exceptional frozen yogurt experience, which I have to admit I go in more than I should, transcends into a demonstration of business excellence and community engagement. Menchie's boasts an extensive array of flavors and a delicious variety of toppings, establishing itself as a culinary landmark within this area. Not only are Wendy and Craig dedicated to the exceptional quality of frozen yogurt, but they support, mentor, encourage, and guide their welcoming and responsible staff, all of whom are local youth. They always are friendly and make sure that every visit is a treat in more than one way. They're committed to cleanliness, customer satisfaction, and overall impeccability. This makes Menchie's an outstanding candidate for Business of the Quarter for the Chamber of Commerce. recognition. Their positive impact on our community deserves to be celebrated, and we're confident that Menchie's will continue to be an asset to our community in the years to come. So congratulations. We want to give this to so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sorry, Diane, I should have announced that.
That's okay.
In progress.
Have, Diane, do the chamber quarterly report.
That's super nice. Chamber is always so busy, and we love to come and report. And actually, Anne, I'm just going to give you a little bit of time right now. If there's anything you'd like to talk about in your participation in the chamber, we love having you.
And I love being a part of it. It's really exciting. We had a meeting, our monthly meeting yesterday morning at 7 o'clock, bright and early, which is always nice to see everyone early in the morning at ERA. We talked about a lot of things. I want to encourage people in our business community to join the Chamber of Commerce. It's a great way to promote your business. The Chamber will help you with a lot of different things, get you involved with the community, and also we need some sponsors for various activities. And also we need some donations for scholarships for future business owners in the high school and things like that. But it's a great way to be involved and get to know your community. So I really enjoy it.
Thank you. We're happy to have you. I will run through. Jim is always has a lot to say, so I will try to reduce it and speak quickly. We've held 3 Breakfast Club meetings. We've had 3 meet and eats at Hot Red Diner in the last quarter. Jim and I attended a chamber winter conference up on Capitol Hill and at the Salt Lake Chamber. We held our annual gala. We had ribbon cuttings at 5 locations: Strands and Company, Intermountain Healthcare Intensive Care Unit. We supported a couple of Bills and Bagels events. We had a ribbon cutting at La Conchita in Santa Quin and WICP Payson Tech. That was a fun one to go to. We had another successful family bowling night event. See, chamber sounds so fun. Don't you all just want to come? We coordinated a great business tour with Congressman Burgess Owens, and I know that Mayor Wright and Dave and Brian and Jim, our president and CEO of the chamber, accompanied Burgess Owens. They visited Chubby's, Payson Fruit Growers, MTech Construction Site, Java Pop, Rocky Mountain ATV, Olson's Greenhouse, and WICP Payson Tech. So they went a lot of places, and Congressman Owens received some good insight with each visit, and all the businesses were extremely grateful for his visit. We're moving the chamber office, if you didn't know, from down below the insurance company over into my ERA building so that there's no more stairs and it's a little lighter and happier there. We thought that might be a good move. It's going to be cost effective for the chamber to make that move. The Chamber Community Guide magazine just got mailed, so hopefully you all received the Community Guide magazine in your mail this past week. It was mailed out to 15,000 homes and businesses. So it's got a lot of wonderful good facts about all of our area cities, mayor reports. There's a great report in there from Mayor Wright, chamber business directory advertisements, and over 280 things to do. So we beat that other publication that came out recently. We have more things to do. Let us know if you'd like some copies at the city so that we can get them over here to be passed out to people. We're working on our first quarterly community service award this month, and we will focus on employee of the month award next month. We're doing Passport to Summer. I know I kind of mentioned this last time, but it's a little passport that's going to be distributed from our libraries and city offices to school kids, and they can go to different businesses. The businesses will ask them to do something. For instance, because I run a real estate office, our passport pages will have the kids go take a picture of a historic building or a historic marker and come and show me, and then they'll get their passport stamped, or different things like that. So if you have a business you'd like to be part of the passport, we need to get the businesses in there. Last year it was distributed to 600 kids, so that's a lot of opportunity to have your name in front of people. So if you have an interest, contact us at the chamber and we'll let you do that. At the end of the summer, we're having a party at the pool with all of the kids who participated in the passport activity, so it will be very fun. Last thing, Jones Paint has committed to join the chamber as a gold member, so we're excited to have them coming into the community, and just thought that you might want to know that they're excited to get involved. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
All right, go ahead and open it up for a public forum. Anyone can speak. Please limit your time to 3 minutes, less if needed. And please don't speak on items already on the agenda. Please state your name as well. Sorry.
My name is Lacey Smith. I'm a resident of Payson. So I wrote a little thing. So I'm reaching out to seek assistance from the city regarding several concerns that my neighbors and I have encountered. We live in Payson New Estates. The builder is Patterson Homes. We one of the last phases right now that's going on. They obviously have more to continue. Before coming here, I've spoken with Patterson. I have spoken with city officials, chief of police, multiple police officers, and nothing can get done, and we kind of feel forgotten about. So I figured I would come here and address you guys, see if you can help me. There's a few items. The first is unfinished yards. When we moved in our home in November of 2018, so winter, we had to finish our front and back. We did not even get the option to do a bond, nothing, had to be thrown in. Back also because we are on a hill and they were worried about the slope and erosion. There are currently 4 or 5 homes right now that have been lived in for close to a year or over a year that still do not have a front yard and are full of weeds. It's becoming an eyesore. They have tumbleweeds in their front yard. Those are then blowing into our yard and seeding into our grass. So now we have tumbleweed in our well-established grass. We were told that the bond has gone to the city and now it is a homeowner issue. They've been told by certified mail. Some of them have not even thought about finishing or doing anything. So that's an issue. A lot of us have really, it's just an eyesore and it's really bothersome. The next one is neglected empty lots of Patterson. They, unless they are building on it or they want to destroy the orchard before they decide to build in it, they don't care about maintaining any lots. They let it get full of sagebrush also, or tumbleweed, sorry, and it collects trash. The dirt then also goes into the storm drain. And not only that, there is a home that is the bottom of the hill that they have decided to, if they purchased it, obviously I don't know, but even if they do own it now, whoever owns it, it has become a junkyard. There are multiple abandoned cars, wrecked cars. It's an eyesore, it's ugly. Sorry that I'm that person, but I don't even like to drive by it anymore because it is the most ugliest thing ever with just abandoned cars and just trash. So that's one thing. Patterson doesn't seem to care, I guess, if they do own the lot. I've contacted their representative, not heard anything back on it. So I feel like it falls on the city at this point to go speak with Patterson and the people that are encroaching onto Patterson's lot. The next thing that has been going on since day one, before anyone says anything, I am an avid outdoors person. I love ATVs. I love dirt bikes at the appropriate spot. There is nonstop dirt bike riding behind our home. It is posted no trespassing. I've contacted Patterson. They specifically said, contact the police, contact the police. You contact the police, they go out there, talk to them. That's that. There has been one gentleman that was told that James Patterson gave him permission. That's only one gentleman, but then when I spoke to the chief of police, he did state that he has to get his bike and his son's bike that is about 4 years old, this little boy, up to the riding area on a trailer. They can't ride it on the streets, but that's all they ever do. And they go faster than 25, that's for sure. That's the first issue of it. The second is because there are no homes behind us, it does bounce off the mountains. And it's like we could have our TV at full blast and it is just constant 2-stroke and 4-stroke noise. We have had our yard driven on. Our neighbor has had their yard ripped up multiple times. There's a police report about that. They just don't care. We've been called dirty names. We've been flipped off by these dirt bikers. The other issue is because, so Patterson is not blocking off the area, so they can just go through. The other issue is Patterson gave the city a trail, like a walking trail. They just go through there also, so they're ripping up the trail that is owned by the city. So we're just kind of at a standstill. Everyone's tired of it really, and I feel like the more people that start moving in there, the more complaints you're gonna get. I don't feel like I should have to use up the city's resources of constantly calling the police, and by the time they get out there, the dirt bikes are gone. So we're just really I feel like the city needs to go to Patterson or something, because Patterson's getting away with whatever they want, and then they come in, build a house, and they go away again until new houses. They don't have to deal with it. So those are my issues. So hopefully maybe someone has a great idea, but it makes me hate where I live. And I'm not the only one, but I'm the only one that's willing to come speak to anyone, so.
Is Jason on? Kim? Pardon? Is Jason on?
Jason is on.
And he was like, they've been great. The police have been great. I have had one that was not so nice, and thought I was being that person, but they've been great. But really, it's like everyone's hands are tied, because by the time their resources are available to get up there, they're gone. And then when you contact, like I said, like Patterson, the one lady says, call the cops, there's no trespassing signs. But then the other guy says, well, they gave me permission. So I don't know what else to do.
So Jason? It is. I couldn't see him up there. That's why I was wondering if they're still on.
Should be in the room.
Chief Bishop isn't here tonight, is he?
No.
Jason?
It was the chief, sorry. It was the chief.
Teresa has a question for you.
Sure.
So did you just hear what she talked about? I mean, I realize that a lot of this is being caused by Patterson.
Until Patterson finishes the homes, there's nothing we can do about it other than call the police.
Okay, but how about that house that's got all the crap on it? And the fact that they have not put in their yards that they are required to do. Do we have fines for that? Or, because I know that there's.
Yes, they can be cited and they can be fined. That's
Have we
correct.
done that?
The yard thing is, those will probably be put in the spring. I know it's getting very, very close, but I don't know where Patterson is on that. That might be an answer that Robert can answer. I don't know. I don't know where they're at on that portion. As far as the dirt bikers, if they're not on Patterson's land, they're on, I don't know who owns up there, but if they have permission, then they have permission and they can be up there. But if they don't, then they can be cited for being up there as trespassers or
If
whatnot.
they're tearing up yeah, if they're caught, but if they're tearing up the trail, what do we do on that?
Do we have a paved trail up there?
Yes.
Yes. We can look into that portion that we own, and if they're tearing it up, we can find out who's doing it and get them to have to pay the damages on that if it's being torn up.
Okay.
Let me speaking with Patterson, we actually had a really good conversation with them a couple weeks ago. And this was one of the primary concerns that we brought up, was the fact that there are homes in there that are not abiding by the landscaping standards. I was the one that sent the certified letters to all of them. I will not repeat the responses that I got back from those letters because they were not very nice. So they were supposed to have established landscaping plans by now. No one has done that yet. So we need to move to the enforcement stage of that. We do have bonds on some of those homes that we could foreclose on. The amount of the bond would not cover the cost of the landscaping that would be required. So we would just have to make that decision as to whether we would go in and finish the rest of the landscaping or things like that. But it definitely needs to move to an enforcement issue now. Patterson is aware of the situation. They're not pleased with the way that the responses have been with those landscaping, with the landscaping of those homes either. And so they are making systematic changes in their future phases to actually provide most of the landscaping themselves. So we are working with them. We have some violators that need to be addressed and quickly, especially like Jason said, it's time to plant. It's time to install landscaping. And so we'll give you an update on that next time as well.
And then you'll let her go too. Missy, I'm sorry.
You're okay. What about Patterson's empty lots that they're just letting overgrow with debris? The other issue is fire hazard. I mean, when we built our home, if we would have lived there, we would have been evacuated because that was when the canyon was on fire. So that is an issue, but I feel like they need to, even if they go and clear and grub, they need to do something. But then also, I mean, I guess, again, if someone has a relationship with them, I feel like it's better coming from the city or something of, hey, our resources of police are being constantly used because you guys can't put a couple chains up or something to block these dirt bikers off or anything. They've tried, they have cement barriers, but they leave just enough open that the dirt bikes just go right through. So, and then the larger ones go through your guys' trail. So, I don't know. Anyway, it's hard to love where you live when you're constantly, and then also, I don't know if Patterson has been told about the people encroaching on their empty lot. I've tried to reach out to him, but I got no response, so.
We can have that conversation as well, but Patterson also has the responsibility to keep their lots nice, as well as SWIP responsibility.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate your comments. We'll
Yeah, thanks for
try to
letting me
follow up with
speak.
that and make sure everything gets done.
Hey, Robert, how did they get a CNO without front landscaping?
So are we gonna increase the bonds so that they can't get away with that? I mean, I'm sorry, I don't like to put more restrictions on people, but I understand I know where she's at and I see what it looks like and it does look bad. And I mean, those are nice homes up there. If you want people to come in and build there, you should, have it looking nice so that people want to build there.
These lots will be filled up too. I mean, they are right now as we speak.
Just so the council knows, the state law has now changed where we are not allowed to ask for a bond for landscaping any longer.
Well, that was great.
Yep. You can blame that on our legislators, but that's where it came from. That was this year.
We get a lesson about everything that changed.
So just to add to that though, we can't require a bond, but we also still have the caveat that you have to have landscaping prior to see a boat. So we're a nice city and we allow people, if they choose to bond for their landscaping, but Councilmember Hyatt, to your point, the amount that we require for a bond needs to increase to a commensurate rate with the amount of landscaping that would be required. For this particular area, this is actually one that, like Lacey said, you have to have front and rear landscaping because of stabilization requirements. And so we actually can ask for more, but it still needs to be addressed in the rest of our area.
We've had more and more people taking advantage of this bond situation with the landscaping all over town. So we do need to do something.
It's one of those, it's definitely one of those yin and yang situations where people want you know, put money towards their house, or they're barely qualifying for a house, but maybe the house needs to be smaller, the landscaping needs to be nicer.
So maybe we need to change that.
Anybody else like to speak to us in the public forum? Anybody online, Kim? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to staff reports and council reports. Any staff like to address the council today?
I'll just jump and say thank you for attending last week's joint work session with Elk Ridge. I hope it was helpful. I'd love to hear your feedback if you want to stop into my office sometime or give me a call or whatever. We obviously have places to go with that whole planning process, so love to get your feedback on that.
Thank you. It was good to get with them.
Hello, guys. Just a couple things. We ran a state golf tournament for seniors up there today, so that was fun. We had a great day. But the main reason why I'm here, I wanted to bring a couple of our newest employees up. These are our two assistants and introduce them to you guys and the rest of the staff. So first one here is Remington Newell, and this is Tanner Nichols. So they both are newly hired. I kind of waited to get both of them to get them down here, but we're lucky to have them. They're really invaluable. They're going through the PGA program. They're excited. So I just wanted to introduce them to you. Maybe you can shake their hands. Well, hold on. I was going to put them on the spot. I was going to ask them. I told them I'm going to put you on the spot. So I was going to ask them what their favorite thing about Payson is, since neither of them were born in Payson or raised here like some of us. So Remington, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Remington Newell, and what I really like about Payson is the historical buildings you have here. How everything is older, and I love the older look of it, and also the Eagle Loop Road.
Where were you raised, Remington?
Spanish Fork.
Okay, excellent.
Hey guys, my name is Tanner Nichols, and Payson. Well, I spent a lot of hours at the Payson pool when I was younger. Also, the first girl I dated was from Payson, so I gotta say that's a good thing. It was our rival in high school. I'm from Salem, so but no, I'm excited to be a part of Payson City and to work here. So, thank you guys.
Tracy, I was gonna ask you if those two belong to you.
I know.
They look like golfers.
They're much younger and better looking. Yeah.
And Tracy, did you clarify their job? What exactly they do?
They're assistant golf professionals. So they're both going through the PGA program, but in our, and they kind of know this, in our departments, they're going to go through parks and cemetery program also. So it's a good experience for them because we kind of mix everything together. So, but both of them are starting through it. Tanner is just, it's not to embarrass Tanner, but he's just finishing up a biochemistry degree at UVU because he was going to be a dentist. And I go, man, are you making a bad decision? You know, he went to the other, but no, he decided he wanted to be a golf pro. So I think we'll get him through and they'll both do a great job. So thank you.
Thank you, Tracy.
Mayor and council, a couple of things. Number one, in the recreation department, we have moved now to Wilson. It's far enough along that we moved offices this week. And so we're operating out of there. We'll get an awning soon. We ordered it 3 months ago, but once that's there, we'll get Mike with Payson Chronicle and get some something in the newspaper too, but we're now at 517 South, 600 West at Wilson Elementary. So feel free to stop by and take a look. Also, Janine is with Miss Payson tonight for Miss Payson contestants. And we wanted to announce a few things. Arbor Day is April 25th. We'll be planting trees at 145 at the East Hills Park, which is 450 West, 1650 South. And then also we'll be celebrating the Cinco de Mayo on May 3rd. It's not the 5th of May, but May 3rd at the amphitheater at Petit Neat in the evening from 5 to 9 and have some cultural entertainment that night. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem and council members, it's good to be here. Just to let you know, a reminder, I sent an email out to the entire city. Tomorrow's a Great Utah Shakeout at 10:15. So wherever you're at, dive under your desk or whatever you'd like to do. We sent out some information. You would get some more information on earthquake preparedness and a lot of other things. But also, I know Saturday's busy, but we're doing live fire training with the prop we brought in from the fire academy. So we'll have most of our firefighters and firefighters from Salem, Elk Ridge, and Santa Quinn that'll be for a little bit with us there as well. So that's good exercise, good training. We're also the last week and this week, actually right now tonight, so right when we go, we're doing we've got a house in Haskellville that we're doing training on stuff, not burning, but breach of doors, roofs, and different things like that, rescue scenarios. So a lot of things going on, and hopefully the end of the month comes quick because that's when the open burn ends. I don't have to deal with all the complaints, neighbors smoking neighbors out, and all the other issues that go along with that. So, but things are going good. So thanks for all your support.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to council reports. Start with Councilwoman Hyatt.
It's beautiful outside, that's all I have to say.
Yes, I went with Shelby Bowling, our community advocate, and we met with Springville City, and we saw how they're running their youth council. And so we're going to start back up Payson Youth Council. That's an opportunity for freshmen up to seniors to come and be part of a youth council. We're envisioning that we're going to give them tours of the facilities, have managers come speak to them, do field trips, demonstrations, just get them involved and in the community, and it's going to look great on their resumes as well. And so in addition to youth court, I'm going to see that we get the Payson Youth Council, and it's not going to be a stuffy meeting where they sit up here and have a fake meeting with fake decisions. We're going to get out and serve and do things with them, help out. I want to partner with you and get them involved with senior citizens as well. And so we're hoping to get that fired up by this next school year in August. So I'm grateful to Shelby for all her help on that, and we've been doing a lot to move that along. And I saw the owners of Menchie's, they just stepped out, but I just want to say the secret to their success is their positive attitude. If anyone spent time with those good people, those are the kind of business owners that Payson City needs and we as citizens thrive on, and that is the secret to their success. So I'm so grateful to have them be part of Payson, and I wanted to tell them, and Diane, will you please express our thanks to them and tell them thank you for coming to Payson instead of Spanish Fork, because we were craving something like that here. I've been a couple times and I load up with my cup. Next thing I know, it's $40 and weighs 12 pounds. And they're just wonderful owners, wonderful people. They embody what an American entrepreneur should be. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman.
I want to echo what he said about Menchie's. I've gotten to know the owners pretty well as two of my sons work there, but they are amazing people, and so I encourage you to support them. Also, I have a question on 930 West, the road to the temple. There has been some road construction going on for a long time because of a new development going in. And it is causing, I witnessed an almost accident happening there, and I'm wondering how long that is going to take. Is that the builders that are doing that? Is that the city? I don't know. Does anyone-
That's what you promised.
It bothers Travis too, as he drives that. road.
Yes, he lives over there too.
Yeah, they should be pretty close to repaving it, but yes, it has taken a very long time, but it is the private tunnel.
Okay, that's good to know, because I have a question about that. Do we have any penalties that developers can accrue if they take too long? I know Provo does, they make their developers be done with road construction or anything within a day or so, or they get fined. This is becoming a,
We do not have a fine, but we can technically shut them down, which obviously doesn't help speed.
no,
Right. We could look at doing that in the fee schedule and come up with something that we could. Yeah, right now we don't have.
and that also goes along with what Lacey was talking about. If a developer is negligent in vacant lots, I think we need to look at that as well. If we don't.
That one we probably have some, I mean, we can do enforcement.
Right.
We can put lien against their property and all sorts of things.
Other than that, everyone is wonderful, and I'm gonna end on a positive note. I'm done.
All right, Brian, did you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, just had a few things. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, we got a tourism grant for the food hall for $45,000 just to do some more, studies on it, a feasibility study. Last Saturday, I hiked 5 miles of trail in Payson with my wife. I haven't seen where we have any maps of our trails, and maybe Jill, you can fill me in. And also I looked on the city website where we have the maps with all the roads and the infrastructure, but I couldn't see anything on that where you could turn on trails or not. So that's something we might want to look at. Congratulations, Jonathan, for your promotion. It's great. You're doing a great job. And then the last thing is, we had an economic development board retreat on Monday night and it went really well. We're talking about our strategic plan for Payson. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I just, I'm glad that you're able to be there and be the mayor pro tem. So now that we're down here with the power people and now tomorrow with the League of Cities and Towns. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I did fail to recognize that the mayor and Councilman Hewlett were in St. George at our annual conference. Just to end, I'd like to say thanks. I'm really excited to have the water on just a little bit earlier this year. Not that we need it, but it really is convenient when you start doing a little bit of that landscaping and you have your plumbing ran out and it's there. I just hope the citizens are wise with it. I don't know that we have a lot of water coming into the system right now, so if they can just hold back and not water their lawns until they actually really need it, that would be great. All right, let's move on to action items. A resolution for the appointment of our new planning commission members and an oath of office. We will be swearing in today Kurt Beecher for a 4-year term, Rachel Becker for a 4-year term, and Perry Adams for a 2-year term. I will turn the time over to Kim and the judge for that. Did you want to do the new board member of adjustments at the same time or separate? Oh, that's not what I read, so I superseded my own authority. Okay, I will take a motion for the appointment of those 3 members to the planning commission.
I make a motion that we approve the appointment of new planning commission members and proceed with the oath of office.
I'll second this.
Thank you. I need a roll call vote on this. Councilman Rowley?
Yes.
Councilwoman Moss?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hyatt?
Yes.
Councilman Hewlett?
Yes.
And a yes for me as well. Okay,
Can I make a recommendation that you also approve the next resolution and then do all this?
yes, and I would like to, the next action item, an appointment of a new board of adjustment members. That would be Michael Hardy for a term of 5 years. Do I have a motion for that appointment as well?
A motion that we approve appointment of the new board of adjustment member.
Second.
All right, roll call vote on that as well. Councilman Hewlett,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hyatt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Ross, Councilman Rowley,
Yes.
Councilman Christensen, yes. All right, we will now proceed to the swearing in of those oaths of office. You're coming up, I failed to mention, I always love to point out the high school students that have the assignment for their government class to participate in these wonderful meetings. I think it's definitely an eye-opening experience for them, so thank you for coming.
We can do them together or separately. I don't know.
Together's great.
Okay, everyone wants to, where do you want to come up and we'll administer the oath? Here's probably fine. All right, then you raise your right hands and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear.
I do solemnly swear
That I will support, obey, and defend.
that I will support, obey, and defend
The Constitution of the United States of America.
the Constitution of the United States of America,
The Constitution of the State of Utah.
the Constitution of the State of Utah,
And the laws and ordinances of Payson City.
and the laws and ordinances of Payson City.
And that I will discharge.
And that I will discharge
The duties of my office.
the duties of my office
With fidelity.
with fidelity.
If you would allow me, while they're signing, I just want to express my appreciation to all of these folks who have agreed to do this. Planning Commission Board of Adjustment is a super important part of our city and how it works. And so we appreciate their willingness to volunteer their time to do that, as well as the other applicants that submitted their names and were considered. So thanks, you guys.
All right, so moving on to presentation and discussion regarding power impact fees with Mark.
Okay, I guess I'll just introduce Mark and Jill and just thank them for getting on. They were planning on getting on, but we were kind of wondering when we didn't see them for a little bit. And we just, all 5 of us just went through UFS's class just a minute ago here in St. George, which is awesome. Talking about metrics for utility health and rates and things like that. So it was really good. So they're going to talk to us about maybe some of the changes we need to get the revenue needed to do some of our projects, as well as properly allocate our impact fee. But go ahead, Mark or Jill, whichever you decide to talk.
All right, well, thank you so much. There's 2 things I want to talk about tonight. One is an action item. The other one is more related to input. And the first, what I'm hoping to have some action on is the impact fee study. About 7 months ago, several months ago, I should say, we presented an impact fee report that was based upon a capital improvement plan that was, at the time, we knew needed to be updated. Since then, the capital improvement plan was revised and updated, and there were substantial changes. And as a result, of course, it changes the impact fees. And I'll go through those in a moment. But when you think about impact fees, what you're trying to accomplish is 2 things in a sense. You want growth to pay for growth, so that you protect the existing ratepayers. So they're protected against rate increases because of the growth. But then also being fair to the new customers. And what I mean by that is when a new customer comes on, they do provide a certain benefit or value to the community because when they're in the rates that they're paying has a certain portion of fixed cost recovery. So when we look at this, and you'll see this, we look at what the impact is in the additional infrastructure. Then we subtract the benefits that they provide. All right, now I'm going to go through some tables that is in the impact fee report that we sent out a couple weeks ago. If I can go ahead and share my screen.
I think you're able to do that.
There we go. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
This is the updated impact fee analysis, and what you see here is, if I can highlight this, but in the second column to the right, it says total to be spent, net of past spending. We have almost $77 million of capital improvements projected over the next 6 years. For various things like new power resources, upgrading the transmission system, some substation improvements. And the engineers that did this also identified what percent of that is related to additional growth, or what should be allocated in a sense to new customers. And if you look at the very last column, it says impact fee cost. That is a summary of the percentages that the engineering firm identified that would be growth related. So down at the bottom is $41 million of impact related expenses over the next 6 years. Now, a good portion, most of that 46 million is going to be bonded for. So in other words, the bonding is over the next 20 years. So when we do the impact fee analysis, we're looking at what the actual expenditures are by the city of Payson for paying back that debt service over the next 6 years. So if you look again at the 6-year total column on the right-hand side, down toward the bottom, you see the number 20,477,000. That's the amount that we need to recover from new customers over the next 6 years. By the way, as I go through this, if there's any questions or anything, please feel free to stop me and ask those questions.
Some of them the growth won't have because we don't know for sure. We don't grow. So
I'm sorry, were there any questions on that? Okay. So of that $20 million, you have a current impact fee balance in your fund of 1.6 million. So we need to recover 18.8 million from the new customers over the next 6 years. So what we did is in our projections, we're projecting that you're going to have the equivalent of about 3,100 new residential customers, or what we call residential equivalents, that will be coming into the system over the next 6 years. So that total investment of 18.8 million means that the impact fee related cost for that 3,100 customers is about $6,000 per residential equivalent. But when we remember what I said earlier, we need to adjust that because when a new customer comes onto the system, they are providing value. And that value is derived because if you're charging 10 cents a kilowatt hour, for example, 2 cents of that may be for fixed infrastructure cost. which is what we call contribution margin. And when we value that, the value was $1,460. So the impact fee related per residential equivalent is a little less than $4,600. So we use that to put together a schedule.
It's subtracted from the cost. Yeah, I mean, actual cost. What's our impact be now? It would
Yeah.
go to, but right now it's $2,000 for the 200.
And if you look at this table, now right now the way you do impact fees is a way that I probably wouldn't recommend it. This is your current methodology that you use. In other words, you have a 60 amp service, 14.4 kVA, and you have it's a limited structure. What I mean by that is you have customers that come on that take different amperage of service. They're served at different voltage levels. So what our objective was to develop a rate schedule for this that's more inclusive of all the different types of new customers you may come onto the system. So what we're looking for is approval for this rate schedule, which you can see has all the different amperages. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you see the amperages, what the impact fee is for that amperage of service. And up on top is the voltage. So like, for example, a typical residential home, which is in yellow, is a 200 amp service with 120, 240 volts. So they'd be charged $4,596. But if somebody comes on with requesting a 200 amp service at 120, 280 volts, then their charge would be about almost 6,900. And if it's at a higher voltage, 277, 480, it would be a little less than 1,600. Now, this, by changing impact fees, you're not affecting, actually you're protecting your existing ratepayers. The only ones that it impacts are new customers, which can be even developers. It can impact developers. So, those are the ones that, with the changes we're making, they're the ones that are going to see the change in cost. Now, when we compared, Jill, do we have a survey?
I do. Would you like me to share it?
Yeah, if you would.
Okay. I am not able to share, Mark, but the PowerPoint is, I just saved it with that comparison, so you can.
Jillian, you can share now.
Oh, okay. Oh, Mark has it. It's the second to last slide, 10.
Right here.
Yes.
Okay. So if you look at Payson City, it says Payson City revised, and right here. And this is for a 200 amp service. The proposed rate's 4,600. We did a survey, and the survey has about 9 different utilities in Utah. Like Heber City just passed a new revised impact fee schedule. They're at about 6,300. Dixie Power at 5,900. And you can see some, like when you get down over here, are quite a bit lower. The state average is about 3,100. You're going to be above the state average, but I'm going to say something that, Utah is a high growth state and you're in a high growth area. And as a result, there's a lot of additional investments being made in the state to serve these new loads. And some of these utilities haven't updated their impact fee for several years. And I think you're going to see most of these going up. We do have, I think, Spanish Fork, we're doing work for Bingham City. Lehigh, I think, Morgan City also. I think those are gonna be rising or going up. Cause a lot of the utilities are reviewing these now. So what we're asking, the council to consider is the approval of these impact fee related costs. Um, just want to pull up. Oops, I wanted to show you what the change is. I gotta escape out of this. Sorry about that. Um, this is a comparison between what we're proposing and what your current fees are. For example, for a 200 amp service, your current charge is $2,000, but it's actually costing you 4,600. So if that money is not recovered from the new customer, that's going to go into your rate base and be paid for by the existing ratepayers. So like I said, we're trying to protect the existing ratepayers. Now you see that the cost for residential services are going to go up and commercial services are going to go up, but the larger three-phase service is actually going to go down. And we also made the rate schedule and set it up to be consistent, where everybody, it's proportional. So that's why you're seeing the positives and the negatives. So what I'd like to do is to turn it over to ask any questions that you may have about the impact fees.
Could you explain the 200 amp service versus the 400? What is that based upon the size of the home, or where are you determining what service a home needs?
In many ways, your statement is correct. That's usually the driving force. If you go back 50 years ago, usually there were 60 amp services put on homes, but the newer homes traditionally nowadays are 200 amp. Unless somebody wants to build a very large home that's going to be using a lot of electricity, maybe have electric vehicles, they may request the 400 amp services. I know that like in Heber City, I think we had some that were 400 and 600 amp services. But those are usually very large homes. Like I said, the main ones that where you might get calls from on this is going to be developers of residential subdivisions. Um, they're the ones who may call because they're going to see these changes. Um, New customers like commercial, these charges are pretty much in line. They're not out of line with other areas in Utah. So I don't think that they would really even notice that it's gone up because the charges in total now are consistent with others. But your developers in your area are going to see the rates going up.
One thing's for sure is we definitely don't want to lose money on new homes. That's not equality in any way. So I think if we're at least breaking even, we're not out to make money on that. That's a good goal.
Do we know when the fee was changed last?
I think it was 2014 was the last time we did this process.
Yeah, Mayor and Council on this, after this presentation, we have to have a public hearing to approve the impact fees. We'll put that with the council, and also we usually send that to the Utah Home Builders Association so they can look at it and have some comments. They probably won't be happy, but we send it to them anyway so that we're transparent with them.
And if you approve this at the public hearing, this report that I'm going through would be sent to the state for filing.
Yes, once we adopt the ordinance and approve this, the impact fees, there is a 90-day, under state law, there's a 90-day waiting period after it's approved, before they go into effect. So we want to get it done as soon as possible. We'll get the public hearing, hopefully next council meeting. We'll send it out to the home builders, this week, and we'll get it ready to go.
And as I understand it, make sure I'm understanding it right. This is just the new impact fees, the new building that comes into the city, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. If we have a large development going on, like apartments, I know that's not a residence, or, I mean, it is, but it's not. Would that be the same amount?
No,
you-
they would fall under, they're gonna be a higher amperage service. Probably a better comparison might be in this table. They're probably like gonna be a three-phase service, say 1,000 amps. And their current charge is 44,000. They'd actually go down to 34.
Well, typically those apartments all have individual meters.
Yes.
And so they do get just the normal 200 amp service and
150 or whatever.
we charge per residential unit.
So it's still the same, it wouldn't go.
It would be the same then.
go up to like
If the apartments,
500.
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess
Yeah, if
I'm-
the apartment complex is individually metered, you're correct.
Yeah, if it's individually metered, they're gonna be charged at 1 meter for the whole building.
I was just looking at the Red Ridge, what was it, 1,400 units? That's what I was wondering.
Every meter gets charged
The same amount.
depending on the size of it.
So if it's like assisted living kind of
They would do
situation.
that. They would come up with something more.
They don't.
So what's the idea behind lowering the cost for multifamily and raising it so dramatically for single family?
Well, it's still multifamily, it would still be, it's per individual meter. And so even if you have a duplex or, a row of 5 townhomes, 5 meters gets charged each by the size of the meter. So it's not multifamily or residential, or single family, it's more of the commercial users that use the higher voltage, the higher amperage. They were paying a disproportionate amount on our previous schedule, and so that's what he's explaining, is that they kind of balanced it. So it's spread a little bit more proportional.
So when he said
Those people are
multi,
going to be spending more for the power.
so when he was saying multi-units would be like an assisted living, where they just don't have 1 meter.
Yeah, where they have more like dorms as opposed to individual apartments with their own utilities. That would probably have a much larger meter, a larger draw. So that would be charged at a higher rate, but he's saying if it was whatever that rate was, the 1,000 amp, that's gonna go down after the rebalancing effort.
Thank you, Jonathan.
So I have one more question. How often do cities normally do this?
Depends on their capital improvement programs. If they see substantial growth that's going to affect the investments that they need to make, then they typically update it.
Okay, thank you.
If we go
Surprised to
back
see
to
Spanish
our
horse so
building
low.
permits going up like a lot, we should probably do every one.
Well, that's what I was
It's
wondering.
basically, we've been doing them, like say in water or sewer, if you get a big enough project that needs to come in, you have to update your capital facilities plan. So that you can do impact fees, which will increase your.
Gotta cover our costs. We'll benefit from the growth.
Mark, do you have anything else? Or are we ready to move on to the next section?
Yeah, I don't have anything else on this. So I'll go ahead and go to the next item, if that's okay.
Power rate increases, this would be
Yeah.
day-to-day usage.
Yeah.
Two current residents, future residents, yeah.
Yeah, no, this, what I'm looking for here is input. You're gonna see a long-term financial projection that we did. And we compare the long-term financial projections with certain key financial targets to make sure that the utility is financially stable, but yet we try to balance that with the potential rate adjustments on customers as much as possible. And so we're going to go through that first, and then the cost of service results. And what a cost of service is it looks at what classes of service is causing certain cost in the system so that we can be proportional. It's more of a fairness issue so that each customer on the system is paying their fair share. So those are the two items I'm going to go through and look for input. The first thing is when you put together a forecast, a 5-year projection, sometimes we do 10, 20-year projections, it's built upon certain assumptions that about future growth, inflation, cost changes like for UAMPS, what your capital expenditures are. And this sounds kind of funny, but it's so true, is the only thing we're certain of when we look out 4 or 5 years into the future is that we're going to be wrong. Because a lot of the assumptions that we use are not necessarily going to materialize. Some may be higher, some may lower. However, historically, when we look at our projections, when we look at 1, 2, or even 3 years, our projections tend to be fairly close to what has actually occurred. And so the financial projection piece of this is something that should be reviewed more frequently than a full cost of service study, which is the second part I'll be going through. Because this is such a key part to keep the utility financially stable. Some utilities, we do it every year, some do it internally, but it is something that should be looked at least at a minimum of every 2 to 3 years. So,
is better.
right.
Mine's in yours, but
Another piece of the assumptions that we use is to try to keep the cash in balance and the rate adjustments as minimal as we could on customers. We identify what capital improvement program we should bond for. And you can see that we have 2 bondings to fund the capital improvements in the projection period. One for 2025 of about 8.2 million, and another one in 2029 for a little over 15 million. And that's something that's included in our financial modeling in order to, like I said, create the proper balance between keeping the utility financially stable, yet minimizing the impacts as much as possible for existing ratepayers. Now, last year, you had a 10% rate adjustment for customers, and this projection includes that 10%. But going forward, you see no increases after that. But when you look at the financial projection, and I'm going to show the ones that are critical here, you look at first your debt coverage ratio right here. When you issue debt, typically oftentimes utilities will issue what's called revenue bonds. And revenue bonds come with an established bond covenant that the utility has to maintain, because if they don't maintain those bond covenants, they're in violation of the debt, in default actually. And normally debt coverage ratios require a 1.2 coverage ratio. And because it's so critical that you're above that coverage ratio, we target a minimum of a 1.4. Now, if you look at this projection, we're actually projected at a coverage ratio of 1.08 without any rate adjustments. So we're actually below what would be required. And going forward, we're in violation each year. That's the first thing we look at. The second item is projected cash reserves over here. Now, we also do, to identify the minimum amount of cash the utility needs, we look at things called working capital lag, capital improvement programs that are funded through cash reserves, what the debt service payments are. We factor in certain unexpected events or catastrophic events, if you want to call it that, such as ice storms or windstorms. And we've identified that the utility should have a minimum cash reserve of about $8 to $9 million at a minimum. And you can see that you're substantially below that. Even with that 10% increase, the cash reserves are at 3.9 million. And you're also in a cash burn situation where the cash is decreasing each year. And so it's 2.5 million in 25, 786. Then it's actually projected to fall negative in 27 and 28. So what we propose is a series of rate adjustments to try to get the utility more in line and more financially stable. And like I said, we're also trying to minimize as much as we possibly can the impacts on ratepayers. And so what we have here is a series of 5.5% increases for the next 4 years. And if you look at the debt coverage ratio, we're slightly below the 1.4 in 2025, but we're above it each year after that. And again, that's a minimum. It's not a target. We want to get you above 1.4. The second target, which is cash reserves, again, the minimum, we want you to see you have at least 8 to 9 million. You can see we're at about 3 to 4 million, and that's holding fairly consistently the first 3 years. Then it starts to rise to 5 million and 7 million. So what we're trying to do is to get you in that financially stable position over a period of several years in order to minimize the rate impacts on customers. So that's the reason why we propose the 5.5%. Now, there is another target we look at, and I didn't cover it on the previous slide, but it's called adjusted operating income. And we compare that to what we call an optimal operating income. Now, what that optimal operating income represents is when you put an asset in service, say it's $1 million asset, has a 20-year life. So every year, the accountants are depreciating that at about 50,000 a year. So let's say theoretically, you're funding that depreciation. That it's not, we don't actually take the money out and fund it, but the rate should fund that. But if we only funded depreciation expense at the end of 20 years, when we go to replace that asset that cost $1 million initially, it's going to cost something more than $1 million when we go to replace it. Because every year the replacement cost of the infrastructure increases. And I know it sounds unusual because we're a non-for-profit utility, but we do have to make money to break even. Now, we use this as an upper boundary. We don't like to exceed it. So because determining revenue requirements is not an exact science, all right, so we define the minimums. We have to maintain a coverage ratio. We have to be above a certain level of cash reserves, but we should not exceed this optimal operating income target, because if we do, we're in theory overcharging our ratepayers. So everything is in a balance. And, you know, in order for us to get the cash reserves up to where they need to be, it would require a very large rate adjustment. And of course, I don't think that would be acceptable to your ratepayers to immediately get it up to that level. So we're proposing a series of 5.5% adjustments. Now, this is probably the biggest question to discuss tonight is, are you comfortable with the financial projections and with that 5.5% rate adjustment? Because what we're going to do is whatever guidance we get tonight, we're going to go back and design rates so that you get 5.5% additional revenues in each year. So with that can I answer or help with any questions?
Could you explain the projected impact fee cash and why it goes negative?
This is not impact fees. This is your outside of your impact fees. This is your actual cash reserves in operations, not impact fees. Impact fees are held separately and are required by the state to be held separately. So this is just your operating cash.
Hey, Mark, he's referring to the column to the left of that.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, because we don't have the impact fee revenue from the change in impact fees coming in. So we have the impact fee cash going negative.
And I
But,
I can give a little bit more insight on that. Hi, I'm Jill and I work with Mark and I do a lot of the stuff you don't see behind the scenes on the Excel spreadsheets. And part of the projected impact fees when we're doing a financial projection is that we want to be conservative with those revenues because we don't know for sure that that growth is going to happen or at what rate. So I don't want to plan on these high impact fee revenues coming in and then it not coming to fruition on the cash side. So essentially what's happening is we're being conservative on that revenue piece, although I am factoring in the rate adjustment on the impact fees. But then what happens is we have to go out and make investments in the infrastructure, and that has to happen at that time. And so we're paying for the capital out of the impact fee cash balance, and the revenue side doesn't come in until after those investments have already been made. So theoretically, there would be a lag between when we pay for the infrastructure and then when that cash gets replenished in our impact fee account. So hopefully that makes sense.
yeah, no, it does. It's a timing fee or timing difference is what is occurring.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah. So Jill, just one other question. I should have known this before I got on, but this projected cash balance that we're seeing here, is that including this negative impact fee cash?
Yes, that is our all-in cash balance.
That's our all-in. So,
Yep.
yeah, so these cash reserves will go up if the growth occurs quicker.
We just like to be conservative on the cash side.
Do you have any feeling on that 5.5%? Jill, could you do a quick calculation of a 5.5% increase on a residential customer, what the monthly dollar impact is?
The dollar, I have it right here. It's $5.63.
Yeah, that's a monthly impact that would occur pretty much each year.
And that's on a customer that uses 1,150 kilowatt hours per month.
What size house is that?
That is the average user, so annualized average use.
So what
For,
is the
for your
highest
system,
from-
I'm sorry, I'm actually not sure what size is typical. I would say that's larger, in my opinion.
Well, I think you could have a small house using a bunch of power too. It all depends on what they're using.
Yep,
What they're plugging in. A home with a hot tub, for example, is gonna use more, so size of the house, it's all about usage and being cognizant of not using too much.
Well, and sometimes it's the floor plan and how the air flows into the home, through the home as well. So in that average, Jill, what was the high end from the rates that you calculated the average from?
let me see here. And 1 second, I'm just gonna do a quick calculation. Okay, so for a lower user, like 550 kilowatt hours, the change would be $4.67. And then for a higher user, 1,500 kilowatt hours, it'd be around $9.87 a month.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll go on, but I'm gonna come back to this projection because this is really the key thing that I'm looking for input on tonight. I'm gonna go through the cost of service study. In the meantime, the first thing, what this is telling me, this is the cost of service results. And what it's telling us is this is how much it costs to provide service to each class. For example, residential costs about almost $10 million, but our projected revenue is 8.5 million. So theoretically, for this class to fully meet cost of service requirements, it would need a 17% increase, but we're not proposing that at this point. Now this rate change that I'm showing here, this is to meet that optimal operating income target, the upper boundary. So this total at the bottom says that the system total increase should be about 18%. So the residential's is paying, is slightly less than the system average. So when we go to design rates, they probably won't see the full 5.5%. They might see 5 or 5.1%, something a little less than the average, because what we're trying to do is move each class closer to the actual cost of providing them with service. Obviously, we don't want to go from where you are today to the full cost of service because of the rate impacts that would have on customers. So we want to move them gradually over time. Now, if you look at like some of the other major classes like Industrial 1, they show the need for a 14% increase. So they might see something a little less than 5%. Then this Industrial 2 customer shows the need for a 23% increase. So they're going to see something higher than the 5.5. But the second question I have is if you agree with us on the 5.5%, then what we do is we draw a bandwidth around it. Like, for example, if you gave us a bandwidth of 2%, what that would mean is no rate class would increase by more than 7.5%. And the smallest increase would be 3.5%. So it'd be a plus or minus 2% from that 5.5%. That would allow us the ability to move, to step the classes in a direction closer to the cost of service. Now, the only thing that I have, there's two things. One is in looking at this, I don't think there's dramatic changes that need to be made in classes themselves. And the reason I say that is if the average is 18%, other than the city use, which is a discounted service, from the rate schedule, the one that's most out of line is 23.3. And that's only about 5% different than the average. So what that means is I'm not going to do anything dramatic. So I would probably think, or I would recommend a plus or minus 1%, which means that the largest class increase would be 6.5% and the smallest 4.5%. Then there's the another aspect which goes into the overall rate adjustment that we do is it's the fixed monthly customer charge. You're currently charging an average residential customer $11.97. The cost of that is about $17.80. And this is probably one of the least understood charges that utilities have. People, customers don't really understand why utilities have to have that fixed charge every month. And the reason that exists is when a utility provides service to a customer, the utility had the cost of the meter, the responsibility to repair it, to replace the meter. They have to read the meter every month. They have to send the customer a bill, and they have to maintain the service drop going into the facility. Those are fixed costs that do not change based on usage. So even if they don't use any electricity, you're still incurring those costs. So those are represented or recovered through this fixed monthly customer charge. Now, what I would recommend doing is to move this slowly. In other words, it's $11.97 or $12 to increase that about $1.50 each year to move toward this $17.80 over time. And the reason you want to try to do that is for fairness, because well, I'm from Michigan, so Michigan, I think, is the best state to live in for 3 months of the year. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. And so the winters can be kind of brutal. So they go to places like Arizona, Florida, southern Utah in some cases, to escape our winters. And if we don't charge them the proper customer charge, then our year-round ratepayers in Michigan, the ones that have to endure our Michigan winters, are subsidizing our seasonal customers. So it's really a fairness issue. And of course, you also have solar generation. Solar is great. It's good for the environment. But do you want to subsidize it? And that customer charge helps to reduce the subsidy when somebody puts in rooftop solar. So there's all these factors, and it all boils down to fairness in rates.
So when you're looking at this $1.50 rate or increase, is that included in the 5.5%, or is this additional to the 5.5%?
No, it's included in the 5.5. So, for example, I think Joe mentioned it's like $5 a month increase. $1.50 of that would be represented through an increase in the customer charge, and the remaining $3.50 would be in the usage charge.
These numbers sound fair and make sense to me. I mean, the solar power definitely has to have that infrastructure to get back out onto the grid and things like that. So, I mean, I projected over 5 years, it makes sense to me to shoot for that. And that being included in that $5 to $8 a month seems doable. Cost of living going up.
I want to provide some context to this. These large bond payments, these debts that we're talking about getting into, obviously is not just for fun. We rely on power that used to come quick, cheap, and fast, and that was coal-fired power, and we're losing more of that. And with the introduction of different sources of power, the cost is different and it's not as reliable. And we are taking our coal-fired plants offline. And as this continues, Payson City will need to do something so we can be self-reliant to provide our power. And one of those things is to buy better, newer generators for our power plant. And this will allow us to be self-reliant and to power our own city and not have to buy on the open market, which is becoming more volatile and more expensive. And we as citizens just need to grasp with the fact that we don't take these decisions lightly. We live here, we pay these rates as well. And while we don't want to see them increase, if we do nothing, we increase our rates as well. And that's to buy power from other people. And so it makes more sense for us to take these leaps of faith, to be proactive, to look to the future and try to be self-reliant with our power. But these rate increases, it does hurt, and I understand that. But we'll just have to be more cognizant of our usage and try to use less. And when you look at $5 a month, average increase, I know that's not fun, but darn it, you could spend that real easy at Dutch Brothers in the drive-through as well. And so it's one less drink. And power is so important. We're using more of it. As we build up, as we get rid of green space, it becomes hotter. And we're using our ACs more than we have. We have people charging cars. Our usage is way up, and we need to do something.
All right, thank you, Mark. Did you have anything else, or?
I just want to add a little context to what was mentioned earlier is that, I know that in many times if you were to ask a customer what the most important thing is for utility, they may say something like the rates that they're charged. But I want to put it a little bit different perspective. I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. And let's say by some miracle, Green Bay gets in the Super Bowl next year. And I come home and I'm all excited to watch my Packers play in the Super Bowl. And I go to flip my light switch on and it doesn't work. And I normally pay 15 cents a kilowatt hour. How much would I be willing to pay for that next kilowatt hour to watch my Packers in the Super Bowl? And my point being in saying that is electricity is probably the best value in America for the convenience and the service that it provides. And the most important thing to customers really is the reliability of the service. In order to ensure reliability, we have to continually make investments in the system. And, I live in Holland, Michigan. I'm served by a municipal utility, but we're surrounded by an investor-owned utility. We have a storm come through, and our service maybe flickers a little bit at best. But across the street, when they're served by Consumers Energy, they may be out for a week. I'm not exaggerating. That happened twice last year. And, ask them the importance of reinvestments in the system. And now the new power generator, what that's going to do for you, not only does it help ensure more reliable electric service, it caps your cost by not purchasing from the open market. If the prices get too high, you can fire up the generators. And so in a sense, you've capped the maximum amount that you would pay for electricity by owning your own generator. And this will help. This plan that we have is heading you in a direction to be able to provide the reliable service, and the rate adjustments are reasonable. And we're still providing a low cost service and a reliable service. And so I know I'm putting a little more context. I don't want to keep beating it to death, but if there's any questions about that, because there is one major thing, and that is the 5.5%, that we'd like to go back and design rates to achieve that.
I'd like to just add a little bit if I can, to what's been said and what Ryan had just said. You know, we just went to some meetings today with the UAMPS, and much of what you're hearing now is what some of what we heard as well. There's just no way of denying it. There's cost associated with it, and if you continue to deny that cost, it's like the mechanic. You either pay the mechanic now or you pay me a whole bunch more later. And, you know, I'd rather have the smaller rates than one big one, you know, 20% one to get back to where we're supposed to, or whatever that would be, however long we ignore it. And the generating capacity gives us the ability not only to cap it, as Mark has said, but it also gives us the ability to make some money to maybe defray the cost, and so that rate hike may, you know, could be softened. So I just believe that owning our own generation capacity gives us the flexibility and the ability to benefit our customers, our citizens in the long term. So I think it's something we need to pay attention to.
So I got a couple of things to say, and one's a question or kind of a statement, I guess, but so solar's changed a lot in the last couple of years, and we have quite a few solar customers in Payson. And actually, we're losing money on them now because in the middle of the day, that's when they provide power to us, and it doesn't cost us anything, but we're paying them. So I was wondering if we could put more of it into the fixed cost, have that go up faster than the variable cost to do the 5.5%. Does that make sense?
It does, but that would help fix part of it. What I need to, and I don't recall off the top of my head, but when it comes to solar, there's certain ways to bill them. And what I mean by that is a lot of utilities, and in Utah, do something that's called net metering, which when it was established 10 years ago, was to incentivize solar, knowing that there was a subsidy going to them. But at the time, there was so few people with solar that subsidy didn't mean a whole lot. But as solar continues to grow, all of a sudden, over the last 5 years, we see utilities rates being impacted pretty substantially by it. So most utilities are moving away from what's called net metering. And to explain that, say a customer has a solar array. The metering that's on that customer is what's called a bidirectional meter. And it records how much the customer is taking off the grid and how much they're giving back. So let's say that they take 1,000 kilowatt hours in a course of a month off of your system, but they give you back, say, 600. Under net metering, they would only be billed for 400 kilowatt hours. The reason that creates a subsidy is, one is when they're sending the power back to us, it's when we really don't need it that much. In other words, because we're peaking in the evenings when solar's not giving it back to us, and that's creating our demands and driving our transmission cost. The other reason is they're pulling 1,000 kilowatt hours from us. We have to have the distribution infrastructure in place to serve them that 1,000, but we're only charging them for 400. So utilities are moving to what's called inflow, outflow, or net billing. There's different names for it, which basically says that if a customer takes 1,000, they're charged for that 1,000 off your rate schedule. If they give you back 600, we'll credit them at the avoided cost value of the solar. And that's become pretty standard in the industry. And I'm not sure, and I apologize for not knowing
No,
it.
I can
Go ahead,
help you
Jill.
out, Mark. Yep, they have a net billing tariff that went into effect in 2017. So some customers are grandfathered with a net metering rate, and then
Okay.
anyone after that time period is under net billing.
They are under net billing. That's
Yep.
good. Now the
But
question becomes,
it is,
go ahead.
oh, sorry, Mark. I'm glad you're explaining this so well to everyone, but it's becoming disastrous because we have some utility grade solar projects that we've done,
Okay.
and we're at 3.5 cents for those. And we're paying like 8, 9, 10 cents back to the customers. So we're actually, the people without solar are subsidizing the other people. And what's really bad is we have about 500 customers out of our 7,600 customers. It's like 8% that are on these solar plans. And so we're losing money on that. And then power, I've been updating the council for the last few weeks. We're going negative on those generating hours when solar generates. We're getting it for almost 0 to free right now in our area on those hours for power. And we're paying big money rather than taking in free power from the market during those hours and then moving around it with generators.
That's something I think that we should have a discussion about. To do a value of solar study. It sounds like you're overpaying for them. And
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can
so,
look at that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
The other
yeah,
thing I have to do, and I don't know if you've looked at other cities, but I know one thing that comes up is seniors on fixed income. Are there other
Yeah.
cities that have, I know there's some state programs and federal programs, but are there other cities that have something, if you come in and show your, have this fixed income, that your rates are a different thing than everybody else, or is that not possible or possible?
no, absolutely it is. Of course, if the council wants to provide that, what it typically, there's different ways of doing it, but normally if a customer is at the 200% of poverty level or below, they get a certain discount on their bill, and it's it's somewhat arbitrary. It's something that is a subsidy, and we know it going in. But if that's something that the council desires, that can be worked out. Now, when it comes
Yeah,
to, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of know if there was something. So yeah, you
Yes.
explain to, I'm not saying I want it or don't, but I'm just trying to understand what's available.
Yeah, no, that definitely is. And it is something that if is requested, it can be put together. The thing with those types of programs is I don't want to create an administrative burden on the utility for implementing it. So normally what occurs is an outside entity verifies that they are in fact low income, and they bring that certificate into the utility. And each year they have to bring that certificate in after it's re-verified to stay on the rate. But that is an option. But like I said, I don't want to create an administrative burden, so you'd want an outside agency to actually do the verifications.
I'd like to add one more thing in regards to having our own generation capacity as we went toward a generating, well, be very similar to what we're looking at. They can enter into a contract where just the very fact that they have those generators, they can enter into a contract to be on standby and never have to produce the electricity and still have a financial benefit. In addition to that, when we don't need it, we can sell that generating capacity to someone else too. So that would help defray the cost of operation.
Correct. Oh, you're absolutely right. Yes, having that generator, you're absolutely right. That gives you capacity, and capacity as value, even if it never produces, because it's there in standby mode. And yeah, and the value of capacity has been going up. For a while it wasn't very valuable, but it's been going up.
Thank you.
So if the council's okay with it, we'll go back and we'll design the rates for the 5.5% adjustments. And we'll adjust the customer charge for residential by $1.50 and move the rate slightly with the plus or minus 1% bandwidth and put a rate design together for you to review with staff and then for the city council's input.
Are you gonna be able to look at solar for us too and kind of put that in here to adjust for solar?
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more because I'm gonna need some additional information.
Okay.
All right.
I want to subsidize the solar.
Yeah. And maybe explore a little bit more, give us some options as to what we can help to discount some of the people that are on that poverty list, 60 and older, and even not necessarily.
We can give you some options.
Yes, give us some options.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark. Jill, that was awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. It's like 9:30 over in Michigan, right? So it's bedtime. So thank you so much for helping us.
No, thank
thank
you. We really
And
enjoy
yeah.
working with Payson, so thank you so much.
And my daughter said to me, oh, sorry, Jill. I shouldn't have said my daughter.
You guys are
said
all
to
related.
me,
Yeah.
she so anyway, she said to me afterward or before we got on the call, she said, I love working with the staff at Payson. They're so good to work with. So
Oh, that's nice. We love working with her. I think she's gonna come out to Zion's Narrows someday and go hike through there, so I'll have to get her set up.
That's
But
the plan.
Appreciate our staff's expertise and your expertise. So thank you very, very much.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You.
Thank you.
All right, item F. I have a motion.
I move that we adjourn for the evening. I second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 Did you vote, Brian?
You want
Why
to-
don't you-